What's up guys, Nick Plays Games here, back again with another video. Today's video is a tutorial on the debug build, not installing it. That was my last video, but today's video is actually kind of a tutorial on how to use the debug build. I get a lot of comments on my videos asking me how to do certain things, how I'm turning things on. So I'm making this video to kind of show you guys how I'm doing a lot of the stuff. So hopefully this helps you guys out if you are interested in using the debug build. And also if you didn't see my last video on how to actually install it, I'm going to leave a link to that right here. But yeah, let's get to the video. So basically what you see here is your boot menu, and this is what you see when you actually start up the game. So when you start up the debug build, an obvious way you know that you installed it properly is when you see this. This is what should show, and I'm just showing you guys here. You have a few different options here. You have our scenario list, development level, event battles, sub-stories, and things like that. And these are all basically the different things you can access from the boot menu. So the boot menu kind of gives you the ability to kind of go into certain parts of the game without having to actually play the game the normal way. So for example here with the sub-story, this is mainly kind of just random missions throughout the game. But let's start off basically from the top here. We have our scenario list, and you'll see here to the left it's English and to the right it's in Japanese. But you'll see the 4 different options: the Endgame, Saiyan Saga, Frieza Saga, Cell Saga, and the Majin Buu Saga. And if you go into an actual saga, it'll actually take you into that part in the game, somewhere in the storyline in the mission. But if you go into the end game, it'll basically take you to the end of the game if you were to spawn into any of these maps. So in this case, basically, you won't see any bosses. You won't be able to progress anywhere in the story, just because this is the end game versions of each of these maps. And so for the development level, you'll see these test battles and things like that. I've made videos on the test battle as well as the asset check. I'll throw those up right here. But basically, they're kind of tester environments that the developers made to actually test out the game. So yeah, like I mentioned, I did make videos, so they'll be up on the screen right now. But for the other ones, we have our quest test and our sound test, message test. These actually don't work for me. When I do try to open them, they just cause the game to crash. Mind you guys, I am using the original version of the debug build. So basically the first version when the game did come out is the one you guys are looking at right here. The debug may have been updated, and you guys might be able to access those, but for me it doesn't work just because of the version I'm on. And if you go here, we are on the boss battle here. These are obviously the boss battles in the game. There's 15 different ones, as well as if you include the different versions of the bosses. But yeah, if you do want to go back and replay some of these boss battles, this is the perfect way to do it through the debug build. And you can kind of replay these boss battles with different characters. So you can actually go and, let's say for example here, Goku versus Buu. You could kind of go as Buu versus Buu, or Frieza versus Buu, or whoever you want. But right after, we got the event battle right here, and this is kind of like the boss battle, except these are the mini battles throughout the game. So we do have a description next to each kind of title for the thing. So we have our Vegeta versus Majin Buu, things like that. Those are kind of the mini battles if you want to spawn in them. These are our, I can't even read it, it's so small, but I believe this sub-quest battle. The same thing here, or sorry, sub-event battles. We got our sub-stories. So like I said guys, these are just various parts throughout the actual game where if you want to go back and replay them, missions, cutscenes, battles, this basically you can do with the debug menu. Also guys, I would also want to say, just be careful when you're doing this, just because sometimes the game will crash for certain parts, and if that does happen, just try again. The debug build is a little bit unstable in that type of area. But also here the trial version at the bottom, this is just the E3 and Gamescom version of the game. They're just 1.5 versions of the game. I do have videos of that, which I will throw up. And let's get into the actual game now. So I'm just going to spawn us in here on the hyperbolic time chamber for the end game version, just so there's nobody that'll kind of bother us in the video. But if you do spawn in, we should be here as Goku now. And yeah, as you can see guys, I am here as Goku. And also I also want to say, if you do have any mods on, this is a really great way to test them out, because let's say for example you have reskins for Goku or anyone, the debug build is really a great way to test out certain reskins that are not on main characters. For example, the Broly one, which is on Mira, it's actually, you have to play as Mira or fight Mira in order to see that. But yeah, let's right now what I'm gonna actually show you guys is the actual menu and all the different things you can do on it. But if to open up the menu, you want to click on the slash button next to the enter on your keyboard. And also guys, before I even if it's not working for you, I would recommend looking on your keyboard settings and making sure that you have your keyboard settings to ENG US. So if you are not from the US or North America, it might be on a different setting and that might cause it to not work. But yeah, if it doesn't open for you, make sure you have it on ENG US. But as you can see here, we do have a bunch of different settings within the main menu here. So guys, if you do have an actual controller plugged in, you'll see in the bottom it says LT for left trigger, and that basically lets me change the language. So as you can see, I can switch back to English and Japanese, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to keep it on English just because I can't read Japanese. But as you see, we do have so many options here, and you'll see the main menu says 1 out of 4. We actually have 4 different pages of menu in the debug build, but for this video, we're just going to kind of focus more on the first page, because the other pages are more kind of things that the developer would use. But I can show you guys super quickly what these things do. We do have a bunch of debug options here, so this is more so for the developers when they want to test out battles and things like that, or they want to turn different settings off in the game. So we do have our debug force battle, debug tick. Honestly guys, I don't really know what these do, to be honest. We kind of have a short description of all these things here, so you can turn things on and off. But you know, to completely describe to you, I probably couldn't. But we do have our debug render here, so you know, our physics, collisions, more things like that. But yeah guys, these are more so things that the developers were using for testing, which is obviously why it's called the debug build. But we can see here you can actually change these different presets here, so I can go set them up or negative or positive. And if you guys are on the controller, I'm using the D-pad here to change these numbers. If you go up or down, it actually goes up or increases by 100, and if you go left or right, it increases by 1. But yeah, we have our Dragon Ball options here. You can turn this on, which basically gives you coordinates to where the Dragon Balls are, and you can also give yourself all of the Dragon Balls. As you can see, we have our achieve 1-star, 2-star, all the way to our 7-star Dragon Balls. But I'll turn them all on just to show you guys. And it's not actually showing the Dragon Ball little animation it will show you normally when you get all the Dragon Balls, and I think that's just because we're on the hyperbolic time chamber and it's not programmed to ever show that, since there are no actual Dragon Balls on this part of the map. But yeah guys, this is just the third page here, a bunch of minigame settings as you can see, and our fourth page here, a lot more just debugging stuff, a lot of random settings, you know, that you can play with. But I'm just going to kind of focus on this main page, guys. If you are interested, you know, definitely download it and try for yourself, guys. There's so much stuff you can actually do with this debug build, which is pretty interesting, you know, to check out. But if I were to put everything in the video, it'd probably be a 1-hour long video. But all these settings here we see in our first list, you know, you can spawn different enemies, basically every playable character in the game. Whether or not you can actually play them in the story or you fight them, you can spawn. So here I just spawned in an android, and he is trying to fly towards me here, but you'll notice he doesn't actually attack. And when you spawn in enemies, they're not actually going to attack you here, but you can definitely try out movesets. As you can see, I'm just beating him up with Goku here. But if I go back into the debug menu and I control the target, if I turn that on, as you can see, you can now move your target. So I actually made a video doing this earlier. I'll throw that up on the screen here. But yeah, this is kind of cool, you know, if you want to make videos trying out different characters, or if you just want to try for yourself different movesets from the enemy perspective, you can basically do that with this option. But if you turn it back off, you can go back and control your main character again. If you look at the other settings here, we can control our rate of damage here. So I'm just gonna put it at 1000 right now, and it doesn't really look like much of a difference, but you can change the amount of damage you do with your normal abilities and stuff like that. So you know, the menu here and the debug build is really kind of great for just testing out a bunch of random stuff. I mean, that's kind of what it was made for anyways, for the developers. But yeah guys, as actual players of the game, You know, this is normally stuff we would never get access to, so it is cool to try out. But yeah, as you can see here, you can turn on settings where the enemy doesn't die, so if you want to kind of try out big movesets and combos on the enemy without having to worry about killing them, you can do that. As you can see here, I'm just going into Super Saiyan 3, and you'll notice my ki is not depleting, and that's just because I gave myself infinite power, and also infinite power player only. And here's a really cool setting I want to show you guys. It's a hide all UI. So you see, when you turn it on, the whole user interface has actually disappeared. And this is actually really good if you want to make kind of more cinematic videos in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, because basically the whole menu is gone now. So it looks a lot cleaner here when you're actually doing battles and things like that. Just a video here of me beating him up looks like 10 times better than before, with all the menus and the numbers popping up whenever you do some damage. But yeah, it's really useful, you know, if you're interested in making videos and stuff like that. The ability to turn off UI is definitely a really nice thing to have. But if we go, let's just go a little bit more down in the menu here. We do have a bunch of other stuff within the destruction, the player 2, system settings, you know. Really, guys, there's so many things you can do here, and honestly, there's stuff that I probably haven't even tried yet, just because the debug menu is really kind of big, and it gives you a lot of options here. But aside from the rest of the debug build, guys, that's kind of been kind of a huge overview of what you can do and what the options are. But yeah, guys, I'm going to leave the links to all the other videos I mentioned in the description if you're interested. But aside from that, guys, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And leave a comment what you guys want to see in the future. It's been Nick Plays Games, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.